We can put our differences aside. And I offer my extension to prayer. And I pray now. Hamni nini hamnya. Hamni nini hamnya. Hamni nini hamnya. Hamni nini hamnya. All right.
Yes. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to a special edition here on the Chaos Rain Show. I am Chaos Rain here. The links to follow me are the above. I hope you guys are excited because I have a guest, and I think he's going to be the first time here on my podcast. The links to follow me are above. You can follow me on Twitter at Chaos Rain 7. You can add me as a friend on Facebook, Eric Ray on Facebook. Also, follow me on Rumble, CRain23 on Rumble. There are some videos on Rumble, so follow on Rumble, please. And also join my Discord service. And last but not least, become a member. There's a join button here on the Chaos Man Show. Hit the join button. Yes, hit it now. Yes. and become a member of the Chaos Rain Show. I mean, there are gonna be some videos up on the membership as always, depending what tier or the quality of the content. You got to pick your membership you feel suitable to support. So please become a member. Oh, but anyhow, no further ado. I have my special guest, Mr. Christopher Grandison, and he is a brother from the United Kingdoms, and he has a new book, and the book is titled. Let me give you a title. The title is "The Passport Bros: Modern Woman and Battle of the Sexes," and I will show you a thumbnail right now. So for those that don't know what that is, I'll show you right now. Let me see if I have it. Let me pull up the picture. Where is it? And like I said, likes are free. Hit the like button as well. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Here it is. As I present to y'all the picture now. This is the book. So no further ado, I will bring in my guest, Mr. Grandison here. How you doing, Mr. Christopher Grandison? Welcome here to the first time here on the Chaos Rain Show. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
I hear you well, loud and clear.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Yes. Before we begin in open up this new book, tell the people for the first time a little bit about yourself on the first time here on the Chaos Rain Show.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I've been a teacher for 20 years here in London. I'm an educational consultant as well. So mainly what I do is I go into schools and I will talk to the staff, the parents, and the pupils about the knife crime problem we have here in London. Because, through, my work in psychology, my background in psychology, I understand why young males can be violent. And so we have a lot of young Black males stabbing and killing each other here in London. So basically any school that wants to work with me, they call me in and I try to educate each group separately, because what teachers can do about it is different from what parents can do about it. And then, of course, talking to the pupils, the students about it, how to avoid the problem, what causes the problem, and what we can do to reduce young male violence.
Okay. One important question to ask you, Mr. Grandison. They do have guns in the United Kingdoms, am I right?
Like, well, they're against the law. So having a handgun here is against the law.
Okay, but the police carry guns, correct?
No, they don't.
Oh,
there
really?
are special police units, so who do, let's say, they'll have like a special unit that carries guns. Well, they have to be called out for, a special situation where, let's say, a terrorist has a gun or they hear somebody has a gun. But generally, the policemen walking on the street or in their cars, they do not have guns.
Oh, okay. Because there was a particular TV show or on Netflix you might not be familiar with. It's called Supercell.
Yeah, I saw the show.
Yeah, and it was written by and produced by a rapper. And it's surprised a man named Rapman. Surprisingly, create this United Kingdom Black superhero movie. I mean superhero series.
Yeah, I
saw a lot of people that watched it, they see like the knives, but they all see was it guns? Yep, I can't remember. I saw this. I saw this.
Criminals,
yeah,
some criminals do carry guns. We just have a lot less gun violence compared to the United States. But yeah, some of the criminals carry guns. Some of the guys will carry guns. It's just not as much in America. It's much more likely that they're gonna stab somebody.
Okay. I see. Okay. All right. Yeah, because there was a misconception of that outside America everybody has, I guess, guns, and when they see or watch United Kings or Europe, especially, they always think that if there's weapons here, there's also weapons over there, and people are dying with also the weapon of the handgun as well as the knife. But it's not really true in some sense, because I think in Europe, especially the Europeans of Europe, they're more of the how you heard the saying here in America, this is the belly of the beast, and back in Europe, that's like the brains of the beast. So they think a little differently in regards to how they deal with violence. I'm not sure if the Europeans in Europe are more super civilized than here in America. I don't know if you want to agree or disagree with that, and how they deal with.
Civilized isn't the word I would use. Obviously, there's cultural differences, and of course, when you look at American history, there's just a long history of them using guns and it being a violent society where violence is kind of advocated in how it solves its problems in terms of the citizens. I mean, when you look at, let's say, how America freed itself from British rule, it was by rising up and using guns and shooting the British. And so they always said that they want their citizens to be armed. So the right to bear arms is a part of your constitution, right?
Yes, correct. That I forgot, under the Second Amendment, I believe, right to bear arms. Yeah,
right. So that's embedded in the culture of American society, whereas here we're not really big on citizens owning handguns. Like we don't tend to want to own handguns, and it's against the law. But in America, the minute they talk about something like that, people say hell no, whatever. So it's just a cultural difference.
Okay. Excellent. All right, we'll move forward now to the book that we all come to see. And for those that's watching, please guys, like the stream. Also subscribe to the channel as well. And always please contribute to the channel. And what I mean, contribute to the channel. You know what y'all guys gotta do. Y'all know the picture.
My money. I told you.
Where is my money?
Benny. Bring me everyone.
I need my money. I need my money.
What do you mean everyone?
Everyone!
Yeah, people don't know what the scene that is. I would tell them, but they could do their own imagination. I digress. But anyway, and I see Jay Shine writes, I live in Germany. Europe is much more civilized than America's. Oh yeah, I mean, but like I said, you, Mr. Grandson, have been living in mostly. I think you born and raised in United Kingdoms, Mr. Grandson.
Yeah, I was born in England.
Okay. Are your parents from the Caribbean or are they from Africa originally?
No, my parents are from Jamaica.
Oh, okay. I see. Okay, nice. It's funny. People don't know the story of people from the islands, especially Jamaica. After, I think, was it World War II? I think one of them wars. A lot of people from the islands started to migrate to Europe, or they could pick which country to go. If they were serving in the military.
Right. England invited lots of Caribbean people to come and help rebuild the country after World War II. So they call it the Windrush generation, because that was the name of the first ship that arrived with a lot of Caribbean migrants from Jamaica. Where are you from?
No, I'm here in New England, the Boston area. Usually,
but are you American?
Yeah, American. But I don't go into too much of details in regards how I talk. Not right now. Anytime I will, but not right now, because I usually when I came on here personally, doing the podcasting, I just started doing it because it's something that was presented to me almost a decade ago, and roughly for the last now 5 years, I'm doing YouTube. And
but your accent doesn't sound fully American.
Yeah, I know. I think
you're from somewhere.
Yeah, I'm from somewhere. I think one point, how can I say this? I talked it up to some point when I was, I think, in high school. It started to shift. Now I can't explain why it shift, because that's a little more of a down rabbit hole. But usually, it shifted, and since then, it's a part of me now. So I can't have nothing to control over it.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I mean, they said there's ways to correct it, but I think about it, say, why bother? I mean, it don't make no sense. It's too much
Okay.
time. As long as people could understand me well enough. If not, I will try to be as clear and coarse as possible. But that's best I could do. So, all right. Wait. Jay Shine writes, I love London, by the way. Always have a good time. Oh yeah, most definitely. And Jay Shine, I might put the link if you want to come up to ask the questions or anybody else. I will in time. All right, let's begin. Passport Bros and Modern Woman and the Battle of the Sexes. Let's look at this wonderful book that you have written. And also, one thing before we go into the book, this is not your first book that you published. Am I right, Mr. Grandison?
No, yeah, I published the book, The Racial Hierarchy, Anti-Blackness Culture, about 4 years ago.
Okay.
So yeah, that's how I originally met you guys a couple of years ago. They were talking about some things from my book, and you invited me on the show.
Yeah. I think at the time, Mary Brown brought you in because he has your book, and I'm not sure if he read the whole book, but he saw some things and it said, this is very intriguing and something that I need to bring forth, and brought you on. Now, at the time, I know you had a YouTube channel, but I'm not sure if you were like really pushing your channel or were trying to promote your channel at the time of the release of the first book. I'm not sure I'm right or wrong, but nonetheless, you're putting your information out there. Because people could find.
I was teaching a lot of it online for a Pan-African school here, and he would record the sessions. So I just took the sessions and created a YouTube channel and put the sessions on the channel just to make them available for anyone. I wasn't really, I'm still, I guess, not trying to be a YouTuber. I probably should, because that's a better way to spread the information, because people usually just go to social media now. So, but what you see on my YouTube channel, it's really a lot of the online courses I was teaching for a Pan-African school here in London, teaching evolutionary behavior science to the Black community and relating it to Black issues, which is what I've done with the second book as well.
Excellent. I will post that as you go through this book. So let's begin. As you could tell, I'm gonna let him. The floor is yours, Mr. Grandison.
Sure. So I guess if I start out with when I was on you and Amiri show, the one you was co-hosting a couple of years ago, you were asking me about Passport Bros, and I was like, well, who are they? I didn't really know anything about them. I'd seen, let's say, some things in Clubhouse about it, but I didn't really know anything about them. So Amiri was filling me in about them, and so I didn't really have a favorable view of them because of, I guess some of the language they use in describing their issues with dating in the West and with modern women, it could put people off. When they talk about wanting women to be submissive and things like that, no one wants to be submissive, man or woman, and certainly not in Western society. So yeah, I didn't really have a favorable view of them. But the other things I could see that, moving to a different society, it could enhance your mate market value coming from the West for several reasons that I'll get into. But because I didn't know a lot about them, I kept hearing about them. So I started investigating about them and listening to them. So, went Facebook and see their things on TikTok, then watching a lot of their long form YouTube content. So, and then looking at what the critics were saying, what a lot of men and some women in America mainly, but here as well, were responding, being very critical of them. So I said, well, let me look into the points each side are trying to make, because scientifically, you should be able to say whether there is some validity to some of the real points. Obviously, there was a lot of, just cussing and disrespect and nasty words going back and forth because the two groups don't like each other. So that's not really something to investigate why each side would say negative things about each other. But so I started looking into some of the main arguments that each side would have. And then once I started doing that, I saw the much, much bigger issue was what's going on in the Western mating marketplace, really, dating and mating and marriage, and whether it's short-term casual or long-term committed relationships. There's all kinds of problems going on. So ultimately, there's a mating crisis going on, and Western, mating is dysfunctional at this point in time. So that's a point that would really support what Passport Bros is saying, that they're trying to get away from a stressful, dysfunctional mating market. That it's not stressful and bad because they say
So
it
chapter
is.
6, I'll talk about what men want.
Oh, hold on, sorry
why they
about
want
that.
it. And because we hear
All
this,
All right, as you get that straight, Jay Shine, I gave you a tool, because what I'm about to do soon with the channel, Jay Shine, you'll still be able to comment on here, but I might, like, certain things I might switch over to certain things depending on people are subscribed to the channel. So you got a tool right now, Jay Shine, so that will protect you in a way. Oh, one thing, please, Jay Shine, do not hide or block any words. Just bring to my attention. And if I see if it's a problem, I'll tell the people that moderators to, handle your business. All right. You may continue, sir.
Yeah. So in looking at the mating market, both men and women are finding it very, very dysfunctional. I mean, if I'll read you an excerpt from the book here. I mean, Pew Research Center published eye-popping statistics relating to the sexual romantic relationships in America. They found 60% of men under 30 are single, which is twice the rate of single women in the same age group. And 50% of single men under 30 reported they are not actively looking for a casual or serious relationship. And from 2008 to 2022, men under 30 who hadn't had sex in a year tripled from 10% to almost 30%. And over the same period, virginity of men under 30 years of age grew from 8% to 27%. And these are all unprecedented numbers. And, is
this, before you continue, is this across the board, or this is just only in certain regions around the world? Or this is not?
Those statistics there are from Pew Research in the United States.
Okay.
But there are other statistics as well in some other countries. So I've done some research on the Scandinavian countries, and there's some really bad statistics there. But that's all in the book as well. And at the same time, the number of sexual partners women amassed before the age of 30 doubled. So while the number of sex partners for women was increasing, the number of young men having sex was in decline. So that right there is showing you a dysfunctional mating structure. And it's not, you may think, okay, statistically what I've read seems to be an advantage for women, but it's not, because men and women have different preferences. So women were having more sex, but in terms of the quality of the relationships, that was in decline. That women complain about that a lot right now. They're not getting out of their relationships what they want. This is why you're hearing this talk about situationships now. Not
that a new word. Yeah.
Right. So that's because of these forces working together, but ultimately they are focused on a population of men who are benefiting from the amount of attention they get from women. These are the top guys, the guys who are more educated, economically doing very well, physically attractive, and through their internet dating, whether it's the apps or Instagram and things like that, the women are focused on a smaller percentage of men. So that could be depending on which research you're looking at here. But on Hinge, which is a major online dating app, 58% of the women were pursuing the top 10th percentile of the men. So that's going to be bad for the women, but that's going to be good for the top 10% of men. But then that's going to be bad for, let's say, the top 70, 80% of men, because they're not going to be getting much female attention, even though they're paying for the service for Hinge to provide that.
Wow. Yeah. To pause 1 second. And some that I haven't really covered yet, but I will note this, that with these dating apps, and I remember one brother that wrote a book of a guide how to be successful on the online dating apps. I'm not gonna say his name, but there's ways. If you're a regular dude that's just say average or maybe a slight above average, if you're not adapting to what females want online, especially if you look for a certain racial, ethnic woman, you're not gonna have much success at all. And this dude, he's not. He's educated enough in the say, but he has that look and swag that gives a guide on the online. Because most people when they're online, let's be honest, they're on there looking for sex, intercourse. They're not really looking for no long-term or real relationships when they're online on the average. Men are looking for this, and also women are looking as well. Because let's be honest, if you go online and your attention is not clear, what you're looking for, there's certain places you should not be if you're looking for that, because everybody has ulterior motives, roughly. So I agree with that, But you may continue. Sorry.
Yeah. So the bottom 50% of the men on that app, they only got 5% of the likes compared to what the top 10th percentile were having. So there's all kinds of problems with that. If you're looking at it from a sex ratio point of view, it creates a low sex ratio environment where there's less men and more women. Even though there's more men on the app, the undesirable men are invisible, so they don't become part of the sex ratio. So really, the men that they desire, they represent what the sex ratio is, because let's say over 50% of these women are looking at 10% of the men. So this makes it, the men are scarce, the desirable men are scarce. They focus on those men, and those men are only interested in casual sex because they got so much female attention. Mm-hmm. And when men get a lot of female attention, they tend to focus on short-term, casual, low investment sex. So this plays into male hands, you see. So the women are getting into these situationships and, these ambiguous relationships with men, and they're hoping it becomes something better, but it's not. And then they go from one guy to the other. And this is how women are having a bad experience on it, because what they really want out of it, which, many of them do want a long-term committed relationship with a high value guy. But of course, the guy will manipulate. He'll tell them what they want to hear. He's got, I call it a smartphone harem, where he's got, double figure women in his phone that he keeps in contact with, and, he sees regularly, but he's not in anything exclusive with any of them. So this tends to be the stressful part for women, because a woman can always get sex. So she doesn't need it. She doesn't need an app for that or anything. Even unattractive women, they can always get sex, but they want more. I mean, obviously there are some women who are just about the sex, but ultimately, even if it's just about sex, they want sex from desirable men. It's not just from any men. So this is where the top 10, 20 percentile, they enjoy a lot of female attention, but they stress the women out because they tend not to really give the women they want. But it can take some women years to kind of figure this out and get it right. But ultimately, it just leads to a lot of stress, even some mental health problems for women. But then on the male side, you have a majority of the men, either they can't get women that are equal to their mate value. So let's say you're an average guy, you're a 5, but you can't get a woman who's a 5, because the woman who's a 5, she's with a 7 or an 8. Now, even though he's just kind of playing the woman out, just having sex with her and things like that, he's not going to be serious about her. He's not going to invest in her. Still, the woman is hoping that this more attractive man, that she can get him. So the guy who's a 5, he's not satisfied with the mating market because he can't get a woman who's even a 5. He has to go with a woman who's maybe a 3, and he's not going to be satisfied with that either. So ultimately, for the majority of the males and the females, the mating market is stressful. The guys who are really enjoying it, it's Chad and Tyrone. Those guys at the top, the really desirable men, they are having like the most fantastic time of their lives. I mean, let me read you some stats. This is what Chad and Tyrone are doing. So,
all right. Oh, before you read stats, I have to do this because you see people in the chat room. Let me do this for the people that's contributing. One second. Let me do this. I gotta do this here.
But they be knocking, y'all. The sonic rings up out of it, and you.
All right. Thank you, Azrael, the first of his name, for your 199 super chat. Where can I buy this? Definitely want to read this. Oh, I'm glad you asked. It's on Amazon right now. He just released it, I think, a week ago, 2 weeks ago. This book was released, Mr. Granson.
Yeah, like on Monday or Tuesday. So just go to, you're in America, so Amazon.com, and just search Passport Bros, Modern Women, and the Battle of the Sexes, and it should come up in your search.
Okay. Let me see if I can put a link here. I'm gonna do that. All right. I'm gonna let you continue. You may continue.
Yeah. So, and the
Oh,
attractive guys, men in the top 20th percentile of attractiveness, they enjoyed a 25% increase in their number of sexual partners. And men in the top 5th percentile enjoyed the most excellent sex lives overall, as they increased their number of sexual conquests by 38%. So the women tend not to know it, but the top 20th percentile men whom they are sexually involved with have several other women on the go simultaneously. So this increase serves a minority of men, but generally there's a lot of male dissatisfaction with the mating market in several Western nations. And I show that in many different areas. And so you would understand that why would the majority of men be satisfied with that type of mating market? If they could go somewhere better, they would. And that's what produces what you call a cultural adaptation. And that's what the Passport Bros mating ideology is. It's a cultural adaptation to the dysfunctional mating market that's taking place in Western society. Basically, any intelligent person, male or female, would want to go to a mating market where your sexual strategy is more likely to be met. Because right now, a lot of women, the sexual strategy they're following, it's not happening. And then the sexual strategy most men want, it's not happening. But Chad and Tyrone, they're having a great time. So that's what's going on in the West right now. And that, if you want to look at it in other ways as well, you can look at, let's say, the fertility rate. You can look at the marriage decline, and then the high rate of divorce. And all of that would be, well, certainly marriage decline and divorce is much, much sharper in the Black community. And we can get into some of those ecological factors later if you want. That's in chapter 8. I talk a lot about the ecological factors in the Black community.
One thing, Mr. Grandson, as we talking, can you scroll up so people can see? Because we're only seeing chapter 5. You should scroll up if you're going through each chapter, like briefly, so they can see the name of it.
So you want to see the
right
6
there.
to 11.
As the idea, we could see the chapter and they could look for themselves. All right, that's good. That's perfect.
Okay, so can you see it now? There's chapter 6 through 11. Okay. So these chapters deal with some of the big talking points that's been going back and forth in the debate, and I just wanted to give them a scientific foundation and address it with lots of studies to support the points made in each chapter. So yeah, that's the Western mating market. It's bad for men and women, and we're seeing things that we've just never seen before. It's actually very, very serious because this will affect demographics. And then when you have bad demographics, this will affect your economics, your budget. So when the demographics bring down your economy, the government's going to raise taxes. They'll raise the retirement age. It can weaken your military. It basically lowers the standard of living because now you're not producing enough children who are going to have the pyramid structure you need, where there's more young people working and less old people. But what's happening now is you have less children being born, old people living longer. And of course, the government has to pay pensions and Social Security. They have to pay for healthcare. So they're going to need strong economies to do all of that. So if you have less young people, then you have to raise taxes on those young people. So you can continue to pay for the healthcare and the pensions and your military and all these other things. So when you have a bad mating structure in your society, let's say like South Korea does, this is really, when I put in the blurb that this is a much more serious issue than we think. Because when you're bringing down your demographics and your economics, that is now a civilizational problem, existential.
Oh wow! I did not know that. Well, I was aware of it, but I didn't know that because they said roughly in the world to have a really stable economy or population that it should be roughly 2.5 reasonable. And I think here in America now, I think it's
2.1.
less than 2. 2.1. Yeah, we have less than 2. I think we're now at 1.
You need
4.
Your replacement rate.
Yeah. And a lot of women, if you hear, and they were on, like, let's say on Kevin's channel, during the time he was alive, and he always asks how many children they want. And a good portion of the ladies, roughly from what I can remember, most of them really want one. some even say they'll go beyond one, but the ones that called in night in, night out wanted one child. And I say no. And Kevin Thompson, no, you need at least two. Sister, brother, or ask me more than one, roughly, because you don't want to be an only child. And not just only child, but it's not replacement when you have one child. That's the same thing happened in China. And now what I'm hearing, China is getting away from the one child policy now. After over 6 years, 7 years now. It was a long time.
Yeah, they brought the one child policy in around 1979, and they ended it in 2016.
I thought it was like in the 60s they brought that policy when.
No, it was in the late 70s, just about when the 80s were going to begin. They came in with the one child policy, and they've completely screwed up their demographics now. So first of all, China's got 35 million more men than women, so they have what is called a male biased sex ratio, where there's so much more men than there is women. And there's a lot going on with Chinese women now as well, but I know I'm not here to talk about that. So I did mention it in the book.
But we'll do this. We'll talk more as we go through this, and then we'll talk, because I've covered some content over it, and let's be honest. Over in Asia, wherever part Asia, it's ridiculous. Even the demands the women ask for. But I'm thinking, if you have a surplus of men, and let's say the men are doing good, they can have the pickings over there. And most of you ladies are going to have to really share if you're not sharing already. And
well, it's not the women that should be sharing, because there's more men around, but the women want the men who are doing well. They don't care about the guys.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
And mm-hmm. Good. But let's move on.
Yeah. Okay. So I mentioned how in the West it's the guys at the top.
She wrote, ladies, now you know where to go. You could say that, but let's be honest, Lena.
No, there's nowhere for them to go. There's nowhere for them to go. They can't go to China, because you see, we always have to have that key word: desirable or undesirable. So undesirable men are invisible to women. So all these millions of Chinese men, a lot of them are dirt poor. So Western women, right? They're not going there for those men. This is why the passport system doesn't work out.
Wait. Can you explain that and slowly? Because I know there's some women that been traveling much further than, let's say, black men. Because black men, this is a new thing. Because unless you were serving the military, you're not traveling if you're a regular average Joe, or maybe you make money. You're not gonna really go out your demographics. It's been trending out for last couple of years. But let's be honest, women were traveling more. And there was a particular movie I had on my channel, Mr. Garrison. It was called Smiling Orange. I don't know if you ever watched it.
Smile Orange in Jamaica.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw it.
One thing about this movie that came out, I think in the late 70s. Ironically, there are women that was traveling abroad. Some with their mates, mostly, obviously, but the premise of the movie that I lay out is that this is one of the first emblems of what we call passport sisters, in my opinion. And the reason why I say this is because, let's be honest, women, after, civil rights, the miscegenation laws were removed, they were able to move a little bit more freely, and if they had the money opportunity, they will do so, right? So the women that did travel, they go travel, let's say, to the islands first. And the reason why they'll travel to like the Caribbean island, like Trinidad, Jamaica, and stuff, is not only to get away, but search for some man to blow their back out. And let's say go find the yard man with the stick, and it's been a trend, and it is carried over for a few decades here. I remember the famous book Stella Gara Gruback that was written. A woman that she had no luck over here. She went to Jamaica and found a young black Jamaican boy or man, sorry. And to come find he was, homosexual, which is not surprising, but that's another story. That, and a lot of women got mad about that when a lot of men covered it and revealed the real actual truth about that. And I'm thinking, why are you so surprised? If you're not getting no luck here in a man, if you're not desirable or whatever, you're gonna go outside your demographics to go find a mate. And if you think going to Asia Because remember, the Asian men, especially Chinese men, are in Africa, right? They're not really doing really well. So they have an influx of too much people over there. So they go over there to really find either opportunity or just to work, just to help the Chinese economy in a way, And what these Chinese men do, they go over there with their, racist and all that stuff. They also go in there and have intercourse with the natives in the land, So they think that they're getting some out of the deal. No, you're getting some phallus and bubblegum. I'm trying to keep the language clean, if you notice. And they're leaving with the baby for the regular population to deal with. So it's not thinking that more men are better, is what type of men you're dealing with. Because there's very little men in all areas of the world, and there are always going to be more women than men. So women are going to always be selective, So don't always think that more is better. And time to say, well, there should not be, we should have an even ground, men and women. It would be beautiful in nature, but in nature, we don't see that. There's always going to be imbalance. So we have to pick. If I had to say we had to pick which will be imbalance, say it better be more women than men. But that's just me. I could be wrong, but you can continue on. I just want to get that side up.
Right. So to finish up with the Western mating ground thing, it's so when you have economically prosperous societies, which you have in the West, and then sorry about that, and you have economic independence of women, their mate preferences tend to intensify. So it creates what's called a polygynous mindset. So this is why when you look on the apps, you see the women pursuing these men in the top 10, top 20th percentile, because obviously that's creating a polygynous environment. If you have 20% of men dealing with 60, 70, 80% of the women, that's polygyny. So I call it stealthy polygyny, because it's not like the woman enters into a situationship or whatever with the man, knowing he's got 10, 15 other women. She thinks she's just seeing him, or hoping she's seeing him. But the guy knows he's got, 10, 15, 20 other women on the go. So that's a polygynous environment. And in male interest as well, a lot of these women now, they have rosters as well. They're on social media talking about they got, 10, 15 guys who do different things for them. So this is how online and internet dating has created a high level of accessibility to mates who you wouldn't have before the technology existed. So either way, obviously, a lot of people are going to have problems with this type of mating structure. So this is why the passport bro mating ideology, it's a cultural adaptation to the level of dysfunction that's taking place in Western society. Because once you leave Western civilization and you enter into the mating markets, let's say in South America or Africa or Asia, it's a completely different deal.
Okay. All right. I see. Oh, damn, I'm racist. All right, move forward. Make sure you guys like the stream. Leave a comment. Mr. Garrison, in regards to the mating dynamics and what they call gender wars.
Yeah.
Do you think that the gender wars as it stands right now, because right now I think it reaches the apex or all-time high. You familiar with the Pop the Balloon or any sort of so-called?
Yeah, I've seen some of them on YouTube. Yeah,
I find it very ironic to the women that either have children or not, because mostly that was the show's creation, is to hope to put women in better position to find mates, right? Because I see more of them than very little men, and there's variants of this thing of the dating shows from different perspectives, like from the Balloon Challenge to other aspects that's now surfacing on the YouTube or any social media. My question is that you think that these shows that that's present, is a really good primer of what women really want in regards to mate? A good primer, say this is we could give a real data analysis that these women that's looking for mate, that they're very much, this is what their stance are and what they asking for. Is it really a good parameter now, the day marking out as we see it?
You mean what's being presented on the show?
Yeah, no, like in general, because when people watch the show and they see these women, I guess how they pick a mate from what they look,
Okay.
the dress. Yeah. That is this like a good indication that this is the norm for
No, I don't think it is. I think you got to remember, when people know they're being observed, they shape their behavior into a way that they think people will see something that's desirable. So it can be quite performative. And, they're giving desirable behaviors and responses because they know, thousands of people or whatever, how many people watch the show are watching. That's why a lot of these shows, you'll see people will get together at the end of the show, that they'll check them 6 months or a year later and they're not together anymore, because really it was about being on the show. It wasn't about the, really looking for a mate. Now, some of the attitudes that they are expressing, they are what, are popular attitudes that are being broadcast and expressed. And it's how we're influencing each other over what is now the most influential form of cultural transmission, which is, social media. So social media is shaping attitudes and behaviors in the mating market as well. A lot of it is detrimental because a lot of the attitudes that are being put out there aren't really useful or what's going to, promote healthy relationships. If you'll notice, a lot of this information, a lot of the attitudes, they're competitive, right? It's like each one is trying to get something out of the other without speaking too much about what they offer to the other. And it's all about, well, you're not meeting my standards, my preferences. So, you're not my girl or you're not my guy or whatever. And they don't spend too much time talking about, well, what do you offer? Because to be preferred by the opposite sex as a mate, you have to offer what the opposite sex desires in a mate. And right now, a lot of that popular stuff going back and forth they're not really talking about what they offer. They're talking about what they want. So each side wants this and that, but they don't talk too much about what they actually offer that makes them attractive to the opposite sex. They can talk about physical things, but in a long-term committed relationship, a lot of the physical stuff is just not going to work long-term. That starts out good short-term, but then it gets down to the character, the personality, the kindness, the commitment, the loyalty. All those kinds of things are going to play a serious role in whether that relationship has any long-term sustainability.
Okay. Yeah, I look at a lot of them that beyond that show because they have a social media, and when I look at their social media, and I look at because social media is a very good how can I say dossier of a person, especially if they have IG. It could tell, okay, I see what we deal with. And that's just looking at the physical aspects, but there's more, because I tell people a picture says a lot. And depending on what you're doing with the videos in your own profile is like a profile that a person could look at head to toe, say, I can see why you think, why you do, what you ask for. But do you really qualify? What you willing to do to get this? And when I look at the people that's on these so-called dating shows, I could conclude, you're not looking for no mates. You're looking just for attention. Because even with the rejection piece, which a lot of women got mad when the men start pushing back, when they look at them head to and give them a sense of rejection, the women get very much in their feelings when the men give them the same rejection as well, from either what they scale from 1 to 10 and all that stuff. And I'm looking at saying, well, how you going to dish them but you can't dish it back? Or I don't know if that's right we're saying. How you take it and you can't take it back, especially if you look for a certain mate. And he has to, unfortunately, like the guys, like KS said, men are trying to buy you. They try to see what they see in the market, and if they like it, they say, I want that. But you get mad when the man, explains why, the other way around. I sometimes get it, but I don't get it. But to me, I think a lot of women feel, say, I should have the right not only refuse it, but to be able to refuse it and reject you, and you must accept it. And to me, I don't accept that. That's garbage. Especially if you look for a mate, and then the way how you reject him from little things, and he could look at you head to toe and say, well, you don't fit the same thing as well. So that's the thing I just want to lay out. I was talking rejection all the time from women in Jamaica. Oh, and I think Jay Shine, I don't know if I pull this up. They got men in their 30s who have never had girlfriends, and the Chinese women are super hypergamous. Yeah. I mean, I think with Chinese men, depending where they are, or just Asian men, they're not really, they will not, if they don't get sex, they're not gonna have it, and they will be, like you said, virgins until they get some, and the rate of men that's virgins is crazy. I mean, it's up to 30s. Wow.
It increased from 8% to 30%.
And I think that,
yeah,
and I think that's going to keep increasing, probably increasing more now, the way how it's another decade. So, and another important question asked you, and women don't know this. You think that because women have the right to, in regards to sex, that there's too much of them that giving up it, like when I mean giving up, that they're the ones that have control access to sex, and they're giving it, to the men that they like. Wouldn't that be a problem in the long run? Because a lot of women don't understand. They take a lot of essence from a man, regardless of the protection. Not a man is leaving something with you every time you engage in this, and a lot of women still don't understand the scientific and spiritual ramifications of too much of it, and instead being very conservative of it. I don't know if you want to agree or disagree, or you want to break that down.
Yeah, I did touch on that a little bit in the book. So in chapter 6, I talked about body counts, because that is something that goes back and forth within this debate and in the larger debate, I guess, with things going on in the manosphere and so on. Is that okay? Due to the sexual liberalization of women, so this came in with feminism in the late 60s and early 70s. They were sex positive activists were pushing for the sexual liberalization of women, for women basically to have sex the way men do, to engage in casual sex the way men do, because they called it, patriarchy and male dominance, that men were trying to control female sexuality by, saying, you shouldn't be running around just throwing it around like that. But there's a lot of women now who are writing about it. I don't know if you heard of Louise Perry. She wrote a book called The Case Against the Sexual Revolution. And she showed a lot of evidence how casual sex was harming women. Basically, they're experiencing more mental health problems because of it, and so on, because first, they're not really set up to have casual sex the way men do. So one of the examples I use in the book is, first of all, if, let's say, an attractive woman tells a man, look, I really don't care about you. I don't have time to spend all this and that with you. Just when I call you, just come and have sex with me and leave and go home. A whole bunch of men would say, yeah, I'm good with that. That's not a problem. Just call me for sex and then I can leave. You don't have to call me in the morning. You don't have to ask me how I feel. I don't need a text the next day to say anything. Now, if you said that to a woman, she's not going for that. You see, because casual sex is very different for a woman than it is for a man. Men are evolved for casual sex. Now, they couldn't have evolved for it if they weren't getting it. So it means that women were doing it too. But women do something very different with it. So first of all, their hormonal reactions are different, because they contend casual sex can be difficult to prevent themselves from getting emotionally involved, particularly if it's really good sex, right? This is how they get into problems with bad boys. So if you look at, chapter 9, you'll see I've put Pookie, Ray Ray, and sex ratios, the bad boy paradox, and dark triad men. Because when they do engage in that, that's when the oxytocin and vasopressin, these are, hormones. They're not necessarily female hormones, but women have a lot more oxytocin than men do. And it can cause them to start to catch feelings for the man they're having casual sex with. And even though they can consciously say, hey, I'm just doing it casual with this guy, and I'm not, this and that, not catching any feelings for him. If he actually doesn't start to act like he has some feelings for her, as in calling her the next day or contacting her and like showing some emotional investment at least, many women can tend to start to feel really bad about it. Sometimes it takes time, so it can take months or years of being like this with different men, waking up in different places with strange men and stuff like that, and starting to feel, this is really bad. What am I doing? And they can kind of wake up from it and then start to not behave like that anymore and want to be with a good man who's going to take them seriously and treat them respectfully. And then sometimes when they do that, if the guy finds out about, the casual sex past that she has, as in she has a high body count, he can be very uncomfortable with that. And I put in the body count issue that there is reasons to be concerned about people who have high body counts. And you note that I'm saying people, not just women. So men and women who have high body counts, this can be indicative of something in their personality. It's something called sociosexuality. So people who, it can indicate that they have a strong urge for sex and for a variety of sexual partners. And it's been found in research that these people are going to be the most likely ones to cheat on you, cheat on their marriage, things like that. Or let's say if you're a woman, these will be the women who are most likely to produce a child that doesn't belong to her long-term mate or her husband, because they have this strong urge for sex and for the urge for it with several different men. So if you're high in sociosexuality, whether you're male or female, it is something to know. But I mean, I don't know how you get that kind of information out of people, because people know to lie about their sexual past. Now, often men will lie in the affirmative and say, yeah, I had lots of women, because it can make him look like, a real stud or something. But girls don't tend to want to go around and say, yeah, I've slept with 30, 40, 50 guys.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they understand that if they're looking for a long-term committed guy, a nice guy who's going to treat them seriously, want to marry them or something, that's not information you want to tell him, because it's going to put him off. So this is why that body count issue is, first of all, something they don't want to talk about, but it's also something, if that information is there, whether you're a man or a woman, it's something you're going to want to know, because men who are high in sociosexuality, they are the ones more likely to cheat on their wives as well. So it's just that women don't tend to care about it as much, because they don't have the instinctive fear that a man does. Men have paternity certainty. So we've evolved to be concerned about a woman's promiscuity, because it may mean that the child she bears is not yours. So the way to protect against that is to not be secure about being with a promiscuous woman. This is how, people like to say, oh, that man's just insecure, or this, that. Insecurity is a good thing to have. It's supposed to teach you to avoid problems. So if you're insecure about being with a woman who slept with 50, 60 guys, that insecurity is trying to tell you, hey, pick a woman who hasn't slept with tons of guys. A woman who has a low body count is something to feel more secure about. So the feeling of insecurity is a good thing in many ways, because it's telling you something that you actually should be concerned about.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it is concerning. And I remember AM said this best, because we have, like, what they said, high, what is it, STI rate here in the West a little bit in certain parts of the country. I think somewhere down south.
Yeah, particularly in the African American population.
Yeah. And people don't understand that if these men are getting very little sex, right? And not only low sex, but also what type of sex they're doing, because, and I'm going to explain in the next piece that's part of the book, if you scroll back down, because you deal with the homo part of it.
Which one?
I think it's either chapter 9 or something. We scroll down.
Okay, I'll scroll down.
Yeah. Before we go into that, because women are the ones that are selected, are the ones that have more the intercourse, that it's going to increase the rate heavily, especially the ritual practice as well. And people don't understand that you ladies, if you're out here, tying it up, your chance of getting these known disease heightens extremely, very extremely. That's why, for the men that get it, yeah, it's bad, but yeah, it's gonna keep in mind the women you're dealing with, they have more access to intercourse than you. You gotta do things to get access, and very small dudes are, let's say, that type of stud man that's gonna get the women like that if they can.
Right. There's a very useful study I used that speaks to that point that is in the book. So if we're speaking specifically now about, say, Black Americans, right? So 90% of Black Americans live in a low sex ratio ecology. So this is where there's less men, or at least less desirable men, and a lot more reproductive age women. So the study actually was focused on HIV and sexually transmitted infection rates. And that's because, let's say, the desirable men, so the men they're focused on, they are seeing several different women concurrently. So they're seeing a lot of different women at the same time. So if that man has a disease, he then becomes the disease, spreader. He's seeing 5, 10 different women, and he can spread it to all those 10 women that he's seeing. So we need to separate these groups of men into the undesirable men and the desirable men, because the undesirable men, they're not really getting any action. They're not.
Mhm.
Yeah, the undesirable guy, he's happy to have one woman. And he's
Mm-hmm.
not going to be a threat to that woman because he's just seen one woman. So he isn't spreading any disease. But because they're focused on the desirable men, and this guy has got 10, 15 women or whatever that he's seeing, if he's got a disease, he's giving it to all of those women. So this study focused specifically on the African-American population and the high rates of HIV and sexually transmitted infections that we see from the statistics from the CDC. So the low sex ratio is really what's pushing that. Because if the sex ratio wasn't low, then women would have more options with regard to desirable men. I mean, there's other things going on as well. So the amount of disease, level of homicide, the level of criminalization of men. So this all makes men less desirable. So when the men avoid those things, you know, if, first of all, being, you know, healthy and not criminalized, you know, you haven't been killed or anything like that. You got a good job, you got an education. These are desirable men, and the women focus on them and they compete for them. And because they are scarce, they have to do more of what those men want. So it means that the women tend to have sex sooner than they wish. Then they have sex with more men because the men are scarce and they have to compete for them. So they end up moving from one man to another because of how dysfunctional those sex ratio environments are. And it leads to exactly what you said, the higher rates of sexually transmitted infections amongst that community. And because infections are easier to transmit to a woman than to a man, it affects women, Black women, much, much worse. So I talk about that in a couple of areas in the book. But yeah, there's a study anyone can look up here. It's called Adimora 2013 sex ratios. So if you go into Google Scholar and you Google,
are you able to put this in the private chat? I might put it in the You can talk about it, but if you're able to, if there's a link.
Yeah,
itself,
if I could, or I could type it in there.
Yeah, there's a chat.
Yeah, let me see if I can just go.
Yeah. As you do that.
Yeah. Okay. So was it?
Wait. Before you continue, I gotta do the commercial. Y'all know what time it is, guys.
Okay.
I want my money. I told you.
Where is my money?
Benny. Bring me everyone.
I need my money. I need my money.
What do you mean everyone?
Please, guys, make sure to support the channel. Super chat or Cash App. I think the cash roll down here. I think it's $ Chaos 8 Rain. Support the channel. As you know, there's a lot of information that you might have to catch the replays if you can, but please support the channel. As you know, today I went on my way to find Mr. Garrison to bring him on for the first time on my channel to reveal this information for y'all, and also get the book for yourself to read for yourself. I think the book in total, I think it's like close to 200 pages. I could be wrong. I got to double check how many pages. It's a pretty decent read, and you can get through it within maybe a week, maybe depending on how quick you are a reader. All right. Yeah, you could put it in the private chat, Mr. Garrison, the thing. If you can, I'll post a link.
Yeah, I'm putting it in there now.
All right. As you talk, and I did put the link for guys. If y'all want to have questions now, come up now. Speak a piece or forever hold a piece. The call links in the chat room. Okay. Oh, okay. I see. Let me
just so I think there it is. Yeah, I think that's it. Let me just check and make sure myself. But if you go to Google Scholar and do that Google Adimora, you can actually read that study for yourself.
All right, so I had to go to Google
and see how the low sex ratio affects the African American population.
Is Google Scholar?
Google Scholar. So that's where you get all the. Yeah, Google Scholar will be the first study that comes up. So if you see it there,
I'll post it now and let me see what I see. Okay, let me look.
Well, it's right there where I Adimora 2013 sex ratio, and it'll pop up.
All right, I see it now.
Yeah, and it's a free study, so you don't have to pay to read it or anything.
All right, I see it. Adimora. All right, I'll keep that. I'll cover this in a future stream. All right, thank you. Oh, and one thing before you continue, what was that book that lady wrote about women and the consequence of having too much sex? What's her name again?
The Case Against the Sexual Revolution by Louise Perry.
All right, Louise Perry, The Case of
Louise.
Sexual.
Yeah, The Case Against the Sexual Revolution. If you just put Perry and The Case Against the Sexual Revolution, it should come up. It sold pretty good. It's a bestseller.
All right, Louise Perry. All right, let's continue.
Yeah.
And if you want, you can put her name in the chat room as well. But let's continue. All right.
Mhm.
All right. So yeah, that's good article. I'll look at that. Moving forward, as I'm waiting for people to come up, as
Probably
you know,
we should talk about chapter 3. So that
yes, please go ahead.
Right. So through the gender equality culture and feminism that came in the late 60s, early 70s, this is how you get the gender ideology of Western women changing from the traditional mindset that they had, basically the way your mothers or your grandmothers were treating your fathers or your grandfathers, to how women have transitioned to the modern woman gender ideology. And that's just a huge change in the cultural psychology of Western women. So this has led to, their economic independence, pursuing education and career. It plays a significant role in the reduction of the fertility rates. Hold on a second. Hold on.
I'll let you that. All right,
Hello?
guys.
Yeah, I'm still on. All right, bye. Yeah. So when we hear, let's say, Passport Bros talking about the women outside the West, treating them very differently from women in the West, this is the core of why that experience is different, because the cultural psychology of Westerns, first of all, in general, men and women, Westerners are different in that they have a long history of what's called weird psychology. So they are Western, educated, industrial, rich, and democratic. And that long institutional history has created a break in the psychology between Westerners and non-Westerners. And then when you had feminism, gender equality, and economic prosperity, economic independence of women, all of this is combined to completely transition women from the traditional mindset that they had to the modern woman mindset that they had. And this has caused men and women now to be, basically what I'd say is that they're out of alignment. They're not complementary as much anymore. Women have moved into male spaces and they compete with men. And to compete with men, you have to do what men do, because as men, we have to go into male spaces and compete with other men. And to do so, we have to behave in a masculine manner. So for women to get ahead in male domains, they've also had to compete in a masculine manner, become more assertive, more aggressive, and express more, dominant behavior. So, and the feminist movement wanted that politically, economically, educationally, but also socially. So there's been fantastic, great gains for women in, politically, in the economic sphere, in their educational attainment. They're even outperforming men now in 37 countries, the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development. Across all those 38 countries, women are outperforming men in educational attainment in most domains. The problem has been when they've brought it into their sexual romantic relationships, the sexual romantic dynamic between men and women. Now that's a problem, because they've taken that assertiveness, that copying, the male life path into relationships with men. So now that you're behaving more like men, you're clashing with men instead of, being complementary and cooperative and a unit. You're now basically getting two people who compete more against each other, where men are trying to get women to do this, what they used to do, and they're not doing it because they've transitioned to the, more modern, independent, self-sufficient, empowered woman mindset. And then women are now trying to get men to do more of what women traditionally did. And, men are trying to adjust and trying to do some of it, but it can be quite confusing, and it does lead to conflict. Now, when you leave the West, there's just a plethora of traditional mindset women who basically will treat men the way our grandmothers were treating our grandfathers, or the way our fathers were being treated by women. That's kind of significantly reduced in the West, and it's due to basically what you call, I'll explain it in chapter 3, it's a cultural niche construct, where you create this construct. You want to completely change the female gender ideology, that we don't want to behave traditionally anymore. We want to move to the modern, self-sufficient, independent, empowered modern woman mindset. And that has worked because they put that everywhere you can put it to transmit that culture into girls who grow into women. So that would be TV, movies, books, coaches, baby boomer parents, just everywhere, you know, a girl looks when she grows up, she's being shown now to behave in this more empowered, independent way. And for the most part, that's great. It's just that when you bring it into the sexual romantic dynamic, it leads to conflict. Because men are men. Their bodies are full of testosterone. They're more disagreeable. They're more dominant behaving. And then with women becoming more dominant behaving themselves, because to get these things, they've had to become more assertive and more masculine in their behavior, because you're not going to win if you don't enter these male domains and behave the way men have to behave to get what they want. Because even as a man, if you go into those male domains and you don't compete as a man, you lose. You're at the bottom of the male hierarchy. So you have to be assertive. You have to be confident. You have to be, aggressive to try to get what you want. You have to disagree with other men and push yourself through. And that's how you get, what you want. But for women to do that, obviously that's going against the feminine gender ideology. So it leads to clashing in the romantic sexual relationships between men and women. And when you leave the West, you don't experience that to the same degree, because that revolution that women went through in their gender ideology in the West, it didn't happen outside of Western civilization. So this has created a significant difference in the cultural psychology of Western women compared to the cultural psychology of women in non-Western nations. And this is the experience that passport bros have, because they will leave and go to Africa or Asia or South America. And of course, women are treating them quite differently than Western women are treating them. So when they speak of these experiences and women, let's say, being more feminine and things like that, you got to understand femininity and masculinity, they are cultural constructs. So they come from the culture you are in. So it's really it's a perception. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's accurate, but from their point of view, when they're looking at what femininity was like in the West, let's say 50, 60 years ago with their parents and grandparents, and then when they look at it now, they see a big difference. And then when they say, well, when I leave the West, I see the way my grandmother used to behave or my mother used to behave towards her man, not the way modern women are treating men. So of course, they're going to find that attractive, because you have something which I'll explain deeply in the book called male dominance norms, male dominant social norms. And these are ways in which women were socialized to treat males. Now, in the West, those social norms have been reduced or completely, extracted and, cut out. Whereas when you go to Asia and places like that, male dominant social norms, they're still everywhere. So because women still treat men with a bit more respect, because of these male dominance norms that they're socialized with as a part of their gender ideology, this is the basis of the different treatment that men enjoy when they go to an Africa or a Thailand or the DR, Colombia, or something like that, because those male dominance norms are still quite strong in those societies, much stronger than they are in Western society. So this is that big break in the experience between being with Western women and being with non-Western women.
Okay. Before we continue, and thank y'all for watching, and make sure you guys hit the like button like always. Hold on. Who's this on the panel? I may ask. That open up.
My avatar changes on my laptop because I'm on my laptop right now.
Is this Azrael?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit.
How am I coming?
Yeah, please come back. All right. I'm opening this line. All right. So now I'm opening up as he gets things situated. What's good, Jay Shine? How you doing, brother?
What's up, Chaos? Nice to meet you, brother. Question.
Wait. Before you answer, going to Jay Shine. Lena writes, I hate to admit I might get dragged, but as a woman, I use positive feminine energy to get my way. You have to be a little bit manipulative. Well, it depends, Lena. You have to look a certain way to be able to use that. If you're a certain attraction to certain males, it will work. And sometimes it might not. Who knows? Let me see if he fixes thing. All right, is it fixed now?
Testing. How am I coming in?
You're coming in good. So I'm gonna remove this one.
I think my or I don't know, time I enter StreamYard sometimes my mic comes in a little bit low. I think it was just my laptop.
All right. So before you go, I'm gonna let Jay Shine speak because he. All right, Jay Shine, the floor is yours.
Oh, what's up? So sorry, Zero. What's going on, Christopher? Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you.
All right. So how do I sound?
You sound good. Sound perfect.
Thank you. Yeah, man. Good conversation, man. I really dig what you guys are talking about tonight. This is dealing with this issue between men and women from a systematic, standpoint. But I would add this though. I would add the fact that the adjustment that men have to make, to me, is not just the one that you just laid out, Christopher. We also got to do something with the laws. I think a lot of the behavior that we're seeing with the women is also the laws that back up a lot of their behavior. Let me explain. Like, let's talk about children for example. They're independent. They've given women, more power when it comes to custody of the children. But when it comes to the men, they just treat us like financial patriarchs, right? So she can have an abortion if she wants to. She can give it up for adoption, all that, But if she decides to keep it and she says you the daddy, then the system comes down on you and makes you a financial patriarch. And the financial patriarch means that they still treat her like she's not capable of making money, like she's not capable of going out here and making more money than a man. You know what I mean? It brings it back to like the old social norms where the men were the breadwinners and the women were depending on the man for money. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of inequality when it comes to that. And I think a lot of what was going on in America, as far as the men, is wrong. Like trying to get rid of abortion and stuff like that. I think they're going the wrong way. I think we should restrict abortion, but not get rid of it. Let them have their sexual freedom. Let them have all the things that they want to have. Just change the laws and make the laws equal. All right. If we're really equal, then give me the opportunity to walk away. You know what I mean? If she can decide she don't want to be a mother, I should decide I don't want to be a father. Make child support only for married women. If you want to right, if you're a religious type and you want to incentivize family, that's how you incentivize families. You see what I'm saying? You de-incentivize all the sexual freedom that's going on out here, because a lot of women out here just being trifling. They know they can get away with what they're doing. They know if they have multiple partners, they might not even know who the kid is. She might be fucking me, Chaos, and you, Christopher. And she's like, you know what? Christopher is the best version I want for a dad. So Christopher, you it. But it's my baby. And you mess around, sign that birth certificate, and guess what? Now you got to go through a whole legal gymnastics to get out of that, if you can. And she's collecting checks. Now you live in London, right? And
yeah.
I've been to London before. I love London, by the way. The whore culture out there is on 1,000. So I have a good time when I go to London. All right. My dick discipline is on 10. So I have a great time when I go to London. But I'm living over here in Germany. So I know how free these women are out here in Europe. Mm-hmm. And in London, I have a homeboy out there who had a homegirl that he was dealing with, a white girl. And she is getting, when she had her baby out of wedlock, the government gave her a home. Like, you know what I mean? They gave her a whole bag. You see what I'm saying? Now, this is what I'm saying by incentivizing bad behavior and de-incentivizing, incentivizing bad behavior versus de-incentivizing bad behavior. If the laws were not crafted so much to take care of the women with no accountability, going back to child support, you can't even audit these women on how they're spending your child support money. So it's really, they really got the men in the trick bag. They saying on one hand, you can go out here and work these plus jobs, making high salaries as women. Meanwhile, you get on trains, buses, walk on streets and roads and go on buildings every day built by men. You see what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is this, let me just button this up. The real cheaters out here are the women. They're the real cheaters. They cheat every day. They know they're not responsible for the infrastructure. But if you turn on social media, you turn on daytime television, it's always something that they need, something that's not being done for them. They're not feeling safe. They're not this. They don't have that. You know what I mean? And they know that this is wrong. And they're doing it on purpose. So I don't think there's no equality when it comes to the new dating scene with the confusion amongst men and women. I know there's confusion amongst the men. The men got to figure some things out. But there's no real confusion amongst the women. They know they're getting over. You know how we know? Because when you look at some of those dating shows, and I'm glad you brought this up earlier, Chaos, about the pop the balloon thing. When it comes down to brass tacks of being 30 years old, 35 years old, and you want to finally get you a man and be covered and settle down, then all of a sudden they know how to shut the fuck up. All of a sudden, they know how to be quiet. All of a sudden, they know how to quote unquote settle.
Jay Shine, if we could tone down with the language a little bit, because I'm trying to.
Oh, my bad. But
go ahead.
I can talk about
that's Greece though right now, man. You cooking?
No. I can talk without cussing. I do have a job. I know when to stop cussing.
No, but you cooking though right now.
Jay Shine, let me.
No. Hold on. Let me separate, because the reason why I said it, because the whole purpose of stream, I have it up for people to watch, and wherever it does, what it does will do, and people support channels fine. But I want to do what I do. That's why I limit the length for this particular broadcast.
That's no problem. Hey, Chaos,
right.
Man. You my brother.
I'm telling Azrael because he don't know.
Yeah. Right. And you my bro, man. You know, if that's your rules, I follow your lead. This is your platform. You know what I mean? So I definitely can code switch. That's not a problem. My bad. And I can still keep it raw without cussing. So I just think that the men need to start dealing with agency. We right now, as in the West, do not have agency. And agency and power, and a lack of agency and lack of power is the root of all our problems. It's the root of all of them. See, one thing I respect about the women is that they have their movements. They have their political movements. And they even tell you, they even use the word power. My power. We want more power. You know what I mean? They use the word power. And if you think about men, when we get into politics, we don't even use that word. Especially as black men, we don't even use the word power. Because more black men they care more about that other 5-letter P word. You understand what I'm saying? And that's the issue with us. And that's why I've always pushed against the passport bro movement, not because I'm against black men traveling. I travel. My passport is crazy. My passport is on my passport has AIDS. You understand me? My passport is sick. I go everywhere. I think traveling for a man is what makes us more well-rounded as men. You know what I mean? I think traveling is necessary. The thing is, I don't think it should be a movement because I deal in power dynamics. I'm in the world of men. I do contracting. I work in DLD. I work with other races of men. And that notion that we're going to sit on sit on the internet and say, basically be Tyrone. I'm here to F your chick. You know what I'm saying? That's what we're saying. That doesn't make sense to me. It sounds fun. It might sound fun, especially getting away from this Western out-of-line female. But dealing with power dynamics. That's why I'm not cheering for anything happening to black men abroad. But we see what's happening now. Brothers being robbed, brothers being drugged, brothers being killed. Because you're going to have to deal with other groups of men no matter where you go on this planet. So that means we're not thinking clearly. It's about the power. I'm not running from the Western culture that was built on the backs of men just so women can just have their way with things. Again, they're the real cheaters. They're the real cheaters. They're the ones coming into relationships talking about, oh, woe is me. And then everything has been provided for them. The infrastructure. Fiber optic cable, fiber optic infrastructure, they can have internet. So they can sit on the internet and go on Tinder all day. Who do you think who's working on those cell towers? Who do you think laid on that fiber optic cable? We're not even thinking about what we've contributed to society. When we even come to women, we automatically give these women this value and they run with it. Because the secret to the world is, and I'm gonna shut up on this point. Here's the secret to the world, gentlemen. Here's the secret to the whole world. People do what they can get away with. And everything we see women do, I'm not saying it's the men's fault. I'm just saying they do it because they can get away with it. So we got to get tight about how we approach the dating scene, which is just an outgrowth of society. It's part of society. It's part of living. All right. It's no different than paying your taxes, paying your bills. This is how we procreate as well. So it's actually a serious situation. So we should have laws that are more equal. And I'm saying, fine, if you want freedom and you want to do your thing as a woman, you want equality, here, have equality. Have as much sex as you want. I'll tell you what, if you got a lot of bodies on you, you can't get married. Now, how many men are going to hold that? You see what I'm saying? Look to your left and look to your right. Look how many guys out here that are wifing up slows. See, we lack the code of we lack the code of conduct. And the truth of the matter is, we got to start treating our lives and our society as men more business-like. Now, shut up.
All right, thank you, Jay Shine. I don't know if you want to respond to that, Chris Granson, before I move on to the next caller.
Yeah, he made some very good discussion points there. Some of them I do deal with in the book. So if you look at chapter 4, where it says the Daywalker identity, so I took that from the movie Blade, in that, you know, he's that hybrid vampire, right, who has all of the strengths of being a vampire, but none of the weaknesses, because he can walk around in the day and garlic doesn't affect him, and he's not drinking blood and silver and stuff. That women are actually not general with gender equality. They are very selective with it. So there's areas where they want equality and power like men, but then there's other areas where they absolutely do not want any equality, because the equality is difficult. So there's many areas where they still want men to lead. They still want the burden of leadership on men, or they still want men to behave in the traditional way that men were, as in being providers and protectors and leaders. So even though women have transitioned to this modern woman mindset, they actually do not want men to transition away from being traditional chivalrous men. They still want the traditional chivalrous guy. I mean, how easy it is to see American women saying, oh, if the man goes 50-50 with you on the date, don't see him again. It's a red flag. Well, isn't that an unequal arrangement? And there's many other areas. That actually, a feminist sociologist wrote this book. And I put that in my book there, so people could check that out if they want. She was identifying all these areas where women actually, feminist women, in fact, who don't want gender equality. I mean, they still want men to do all the pursuing. They initiate sex. They're the ones who asked, you know, who have to ask to get married. They decide the exclusivity of the relationship. They want chivalrous men. So these are the men who have the traditional mindset. So what they're saying is that women have transitioned to this modern woman identity, but they actually do not want men to transition away from the traditional masculine gender ideology that we have been following. And when we do, they will question our manhood. They will put us down and say, you're not a real man if you don't do this, if you don't pay for the dates, and if you don't protect me this way, if you don't support me and do all these other things that men traditionally did, you're not a real man. Now, imagine how they would respond to a man who says, okay, if you don't treat me the way my grandmother treated my grandfather, you're not a real woman. They would then call you a sexist or a misogynist, because we have to accept the modern woman transition to the new gender ideology. So really, that is a very selective way of approaching gender equality. And that's why they don't really get it, because men are confused, because they'll say they want equality here, but then somewhere else they don't want it. Or like Jay Shine said, there are some very unequal arrangements in society that actually do have to be addressed. One of the reasons for marriage decline is because they know when a man gets married, a man can lose everything if that marriage doesn't work out right. But it's not that type of a risk for a woman. So of course, that's an unequal arrangement, isn't it? If you can go in, you can lose half your assets. You basically become a spectator in your child's lives, because the woman will get custody of the child, and there's all these visitation issues and so forth. So these are very stressful for men. And a lot of men are saying now, well, I don't want to take that risk. I don't want to lose everything I've worked for and then be separated from my children and barely able to see them. So Jay Shine did make some good points to discuss for sure. And several of them I do discuss in the book.
All right. Good. All right, Ezra, are you there?
Yeah, I'm still here, man. I mean,
all right. You may ask your questions. Go ahead, brother. Floor is yours.
Well, it's funny. I'm definitely. I want to say this. I definitely want to read that book. I would call myself proudly, as many people know in the space, a passport bro myself. I just came back from Japan last month.
What part of Japan?
Sumida, Tokyo, and I was next time I'll be there in May. I've been.
Yeah, I lived in Tokyo for 3 years.
Oh, nice. Oh, so that's
I was in Edogawa. Yeah, I was at, you know, Koiwa?
Koiwa.
It's in Edogawa.
Edogawa. Oh, okay. That's in Tokyo, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So even though, you know, I'm a psychologist and I did the research, trust me, I know women are very different in other parts of the world. So if you've been interacting with Japanese women, you know the treatment is
my God.
Very different.
And like I said, there's a lot of stuff that Jay Sean said was spot on, and it's been a while, brother. I used to remember you back in the day, you being in the space. There's a lot I want to say though, but towards what Mr. Grandison said, I definitely want to buy your book. I'm gonna try to buy it over the weekend. Also, if you have any other books, I definitely would be interested in reading them as well. And I think your voice is definitely much needed because you give a more smoother, more articulate delivery in terms of how we might want to get our message across in this space. And I feel as though you're probably the right man for the job. Speaking of Japan, that was one of the main reasons why I was learning Japanese, and to the point where I was able to network with people last month to the point where someone's gonna help me get an apartment when I try to move out there next year, because I mean I just turned 30. And to me, honestly, I can go anywhere in this world and get a wife, but I mean that's definitely a place where, you know, in terms of crime, in terms of hospitality and how the people are, it's a place where you can definitely thrive. I mean, there's little to no crime. You got women walking around at 3 a.m. in the morning. But the deference that's shown to me, like I give you guys a prime example. Sorry about the background noise, living in New York, but I took my uncle with me to Japan, and we were on a train in Tokyo, and he was sitting down. He's a taller dude. He's like 6'4", 6'5", and there was a lady sitting next to him, and she saw me and then saw him. She literally she was about to get up and said, "Do you want this seat?" I've never had that happen to me in my life. This happened to me 3 times while I was there. I live in New York. I've had women tap me on the shoulder and ask me to get up. I've never had this, and this is not just old, or it's not just a young woman thing, it's an older woman thing too. I've never seen a woman show deference like that, like they would in Japan. Like, I mean, it was a time where I was struggling to put something in a machine in the vendor, and a group of women just came over. Now, in general, the Japanese is very helpful and very polite. But for a group of girls to come over and help you with something, a black, especially, and even being black, to help you with something, right? They took the money on my hand and helped me get, like, oh, which drink do you want, or what have you? And then they say, you know, like, no problem, you're welcome, or what have you. And it's like, I've never, people might say, oh, that's a you problem, but it's like, no, I'm of the belief that in America, women genuinely do not like men. Like I just saw this thing, this reel of a girl that I was following on Instagram. She's talking about, oh, the feminine like disgust I get when a man, when me and another man lock eyes. And it's like, how is it that it disgusts you if you catch a man looking at you? Like, that's a bit like it's like I genuinely believe, and a lot of men are not gonna admit it, especially in the black community. I don't believe that women really like men outside of providing sexual or financial access. They couldn't stand, they wouldn't piss on you if you were on fire. And I just believe, for the mere fact, and it's not, people might say, oh, it's a racial thing. Yeah, to some extent, but it's like, I'm a black man going to another country, and I've had women from other countries treat me better than the woman in my own community. So I tell people all the time, since I've traveled to 10 countries this year so far. I've always been a traveler. Like, I left this country for my first time when I finished high school. But yeah, I always tell people I don't think my wife is in America. It's not. She's definitely not. And I just feel like a lot of men, they feel locked in. They're trying to negotiate femininity in cooperation with the woman that don't give a you know what about you, and to negotiate with them to be a woman or to be ladylike, you're working from a position of weakness. So in retort to what Jay Sean is saying, that's why I don't like, yes, you can change the laws, but let's say I'm a 20-year-old guy and I just turned 30. I'm not going to invest my time in trying to change the laws, because the culture is there. The culture is what backs up the laws. Just like in Japan, the laws are telling you, okay, or if you go to, for example, a place like Singapore and they tell you, oh, don't litter. Well, the reason why the streets are clean is not necessarily only because there's laws that fine you for being unsanitary or littering. It's because of the culture combined with the laws that enforce it. The culture is what the issue is, and culture takes years to change. And this has been brewing since before, and most of us were born on this panel. So I'm not in the business, respectfully with Jay Shine. This is why I believe that being a passport bro is probably the most ideal situation if you can, because I'm not in the business of trying to change women's mind about how they feel about men. That's a waste of time. And if you as a woman, and I'm not saying that you're saying that men should do that, but it's like, even if we change the laws, if we change the laws right now and said paternity fraud is illegal, and divorce and alimony is illegal, and women have to have and women, when they get divorced, they leave with nothing, that's still not going to change the feminist views towards men. They probably just hate men even more. So I don't believe that men should invent, like, what Dr. King said, having your people in the burning building. I think America, people say on average an empire lasts for 250, 200 years. I think America is in decline and is going the way of Nero, when Nero's Rome, and I don't see it getting any better. I think that's why men should just find another country to live in. Like, you can't live in a house.
Can I interject real quick?
Yes, and I'm also calls to quit in the next few minutes. So go ahead.
Just real quick. As well, I just want to address my brother. I travel the world, bro, and I hear where you're coming from. I do, and I'm gonna give you some quick examples after I say what I'm about to say next. But feminism and sexual freedom is everywhere. It's everywhere. Earlier, they were talking about China, and because of what they did with their child laws, they created an imbalance where at one point there were 50 million more Chinese men than women. And then when the economy started growing in the 2000s, because it wasn't until the 2000s where China really started booming. And so China has actually built up their cities and everything really, really fast. It's actually a marvel in history, but now it's cooling off. They're having issues in their housing market, but I digress. So what happened in that is that the women started moving from the countryside, the young women started moving to the cities and started living sex in the city lifestyles. And they practicing not only sexual freedom in China, they're practicing super hypergamy. So the guys out there who are or what we call six-figure in their economy and up, the millionaires, they got 2 to 3 to sometimes 6 girlfriends. And the guys in the countryside and the blue-collar guys will be 30-something, 35 years old, never had a girlfriend in their life. That's what's happening in China. You know what I mean? Because women nature is women nature. Why? Because they created a situation where they can get away with it. And the reason why it's happening is because the men at the top, like my man Christopher said, they having the time of their life. You know what I mean? And you know how it is with male ego. If I can knock your chick, or I can have all the chicks in the club, I'm not thinking about what Chaos is not getting. I'm not thinking what Azriel's not getting. You see what I'm saying? Now, let me give you another example. Let's go to Brazil and Dominican Republic. In Dominican Republic, the ratio of men to women in Dominican Republic is only almost 200,000 more women in that country. So that's basically 1 to 1. All of those girls that are dating American men, whether they're white or black, and the white boys were one of the ones that really kicked off sex tourism in these countries. And they're still down there, a lot of old ones too. I work with a few of them. They live in the Philippines. They stay in DR. They stay in Thailand. But I digress. They all got regular boyfriends. Those girls that we're going down there with and you see dudes with, they got boyfriends when you leave the country, or they hook up with other dates. It's like an occupation for them because they have no money. So what you're doing is you're not changing out for a better woman. You're just changing out for a nicer acting hoe. They're kinder than the hoes we have in America. That's all. But they're still hoes. You know what I'm saying? They're still slows. They're still ran through. Same thing in Brazil. What kind of country can you go to where you can go down the street and run into women and knock their women? What kind of women is that? See, we're not applying the same category, not the same category. We're not applying the same requirement to these women in other countries that we do in the moment in America, right? We call out the whore behavior in America. We call out slut behavior in America. And we got brothers online on Phil Scott's channel. You can go see this, and other channels talking about they in Colombia, married to or taking care of single mothers in other countries. See, it's just about finding a woman they feel is beautiful and treats them a little better. And I get that. I'm not dumping on that. But for me, I'm operating from a power dynamic. Me as a black man and as a man, period, I want power, Azriel. And there's no power in being a guest in some other man's country. That's what you are. You in some other man's patriarchy, not your own.
I hear that, but here's the thing though, and I gotta say there gotta be nuance to it. For example, like I've been in Brazil and what have you. Here's the thing. One of the reasons why a lot of these countries work in terms of the male and female dynamics is two things. One, unfortunately, because it's not. I mean, I wouldn't say that Brazil is not necessarily a third world country because they have their planes, they have a lot of stuff going on, but the infrastructure is not as great as it is in America. For example, you can't have up 2 or 3 kids by a dude and then just divorce him and think you won't hit the jackpot in Brazil, right? They don't have the infrastructure to enforce the kind of feminist laws that they have over here. A woman can't just drop off her kid at a fire station or put them in one of them little baby shuttle things that they have in America. On top of that, combined with the fact that once you have here's another thing. Once they make street walkers, the street walking industry, legal, that brings down the possibility of sex and women having sexual leverage over men. Because if you're a woman and you think, oh, I'm not gonna give my man any tonight, or if I'm gonna punish him, or I just married him for his money, but we're gonna have a sexless marriage. He can just easily go pay $40 to a chick that looks just as good, if not better than you. That's one of the biggest reasons why it works over there. That's why in places like, Colombia is a little bit rough, but like you can't bully men into marriages or feel as though I'm gonna have a sexless marriage with this man and just take him for his money and his resources. No, you can't do that. Once you make, that's another one of the biggest reasons why they haven't made street walking here legal is one, because the government's trying to figure out a way to subsidize it and make money off of it. And then two is like you lose that sexual leverage that you have over men. Right. But it's kind of backfiring because men have figured, okay, if I'm not going to have a family and if I'm not going to have sexual access, then screw it. Let America's society fail. However, here's the thing. Like I said, now to reiterate my point again, you can have a decent girl, right? Let's say you're in Brazil somewhere. She's like in her early 20s. Like I said, she cannot try to finesse you. There, you can find a quality chick that has a low body count in a lot of these countries. I've seen brothers do it. I've known brothers that have done it. It's not like as soon as you step foot in like Brazil and Colombia, every single woman is coming out of the brothel. It's not like that. You can still find quality women, but the difference is that she can't use that sexual leverage over you. Another thing too, I want to add too, if let's say you don't even want to deal with Brazil and Colombia, that's fine. You can go to Eastern Europe. Most of these people on Sundays, businesses are slow or they shut down because they're in church. I'm not saying that nothing is perfect, flawless proof or foolproof. Stuff can still happen. But you got Asia, you got Eastern Europe, which is to me, out of all the people that are traveling, black men, those are my stomping grounds. I do I thrived there very well. You don't have to just go to Colombia or Brazil. I even tell people like not all of us should go to Colombia and Brazil. Like I'm going to Brazil in February, March, but I haven't been there in a minute. Not all of us go there. There are plenty of other places where you can find a quality wife, and she's not gonna bust it open like a call girl. She's gonna make you meet the family. You're gonna you guys are gonna court each other. Prime example, in Japan, do they have loose women? Yes, they do, because there's prostitution there. They have a place called Shinjuku called Kabikucho. If you know, you know. But long story short, you could be with a woman in Japan, and after 3 dates, okay, you either have to, express the culture is you have to express to her that you want a relationship with her, or by the time that 3rd date is done and you haven't made it clear to her that you want a relationship with her, she's gone. So they value relationships to a degree. It's not, like I said, it's not perfect because they have their issues as well over there because of the it's a bit of a repressive sex culture, but still anything is better than the West, or I should say America, to be honest with you.
All right. Azra, I know you said something, you say some Jay Shine. Chris Grandson, but Azra speak earlier. I know it's long way. I apologize. Anything you want to rebut or in regards to what Azra said, Mr. Grandson?
No, a lot of what he said is right. Even what he said about Japan, because I was there for a long time, so I know women treat you very differently there. And like he said, there you have the girls who can be promiscuous, but then it's also very easy to meet a girl who's a virgin in Japan. It's just like that. But certainly they have a lot more respect for men there. I mean, my first week there, I was shocked at how much respect women have for men there. I mean, where I was working, if you take the lift, the women wait for the men to get off the lift before they walk off. If you're walking into a door and they're coming, they will stop and allow you to go through the door first. It's a male-dominant society. Like when I went out with the other teachers, because I was teaching there, like to the izakayas. So Azrael would know what I'm talking about. It's a kind of like a Japanese social hangout restaurant kind of place.
It's like Applebee's.
Right. And the female teachers will be putting the food on plates and serving the men. And no one asked them to do it. They just do it. You think that's going to happen in the West?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Yeah. He's making those good points. And I make those points scientifically in the book. So when you look to chapter 4, we talked about cultural psychology. What he was talking about is exactly that the differences in how these populations are when you move to these other continents. And like Jay Stein said, it's not perfect. Yeah, there's all kinds of things that you can get into in some of these areas. Let's say we've heard what's going on in Colombia and so on. But hey, there's like 200 countries in the world, man. Once you get outside of the West, the cultural psychology is just different. And women respond to men with a different level of respect. So yeah, if you go there and like you just, you're tricking or whatever, fine, yeah, you can get yourself in trouble or end up with loose women or end up exploited. You still have to have, your common sense and your intelligence about you, because all of those things can happen to you right there in America. I mean, I used to live in Brooklyn, so I know how, some women can be there to get your money, to exploit you.
I live in Brooklyn myself.
Yeah, with honey traps, but then you can still meet a nice girl. I mean, I used to live in Crown Heights in Brooklyn. I don't know if you know where that is, but
I'm on Bedford. I'm near
okay. So you're walking distance.
Yeah.
So I would just say that all of that's true. And what I've tried to do is bring the evolutionary behavior sciences to explain these talking points using science. So instead of just the anecdotal experiences and, the fighting that's going back and forth, what can we, validate scientifically, whether it's women talking about, well, these men just want patriarchy and male dominance. Well, there's some truth to that, because if you say you want more submissive, agreeable women, that means, hey, I'm the leader and I want the women to follow. So, but they don't deny that. They say this is the traditional arrangement between men and women, and that's what they like. So even though it's a criticism that, let's say, some Westerners or Western women and some men will offer to the passport bros, then they will respond and say, yeah, that's true. We do want to be in the leader position. But here's the twist with that. When you leave the West, that's what women want. They want you to lead. They want you to be a socially dominant male and carry yourself that way. And if you're not doing it that way, they tend not to find you attractive. But there's even more irony in that, because Western women still want that too. That shows up in the research again and again and again. So when we look at chapter 5 and we talk about what women want and female mating psychology, even the feminists were saying that they want a socially dominant male. They wouldn't use that term. But when they describe what they want, first of all, physically, he has to be taller and bigger. And then he has to be economically attractive, making more money than her. And yeah, he needs to serve her, but he needs to be dominant in his interactions with other men and other people. Well, what are you asking? You're asking for a socially dominant man. So of course, you don't get a socially dominant man and they'll boss that man around and tell him what to do and think there's not going to be a conflict. So this is what's going on in the West. So even though they offer that as a criticism, saying, you know, they want male dominance norms exist in every society on earth. And historically, we have no evidence they've never existed. They're everywhere. Even in the West, they're still there. The main ones, you know, they've been trying to kill them off. But every society is a patriarchy and always has been. Even now, there are no gender equal societies.
That was well said. That was well said. Well said. Look, fellas, I'm a structure guy. I believe everything is structural, right? And as long as we're paying taxes to a society, we should have a certain level of agency in it. When it comes to procreation, our ducats, our money, we should have a say in that. There shouldn't be a society that's constantly legally catching adults. Let me give you an example. I'm over here in Germany. The women over here put their daughters on birth control at 16 years old, whether they're sexually active or not, because they have a mentality of responsibility and having, you know, if you're going to have unprotected sex, if you're going to have casual sex, we've given you the means to protect yourself. It's called birth control. You know how I know it can be done in America? Because when Tiger Woods had 18 women in his phone, none of them had his baby. They were all working with him. Our prostitutes and our working women know how not to get pregnant.
Jay Shine?
Can you hear me?
I apologize, gentlemen. I have to wrap this up. I have some more important to do, and I'm already past the mark. I mean, I wish y'all guys came up earlier, because the conversation is good. I don't want to end it, but I have to send this. Any close marks? Any close marks for you, Jay Shine or Azrael?
Oh no, I was going to close on that right there. Look, I'm going to say this real quick. It's a pleasure to be with you, Azrael. It's good to see you. I know you from the States for a long time, and I always want to hear what my brothers got to say, whether we agree or not. These are the conversations we need to have anyway. And it's an absolute pleasure to meet you, Christopher. I'm gonna check out your book ASAP.
Are you in Berlin?
No, I'm in the Wiesbaden, not too far from Frankfurt.
Okay. Oh, cool.
I'm in the Frankfurt area, yeah. So I'll be in London all the time. So maybe I'll reach out to you. I'll get your email or something. We're in London, and I'll get you in trouble.
Don't worry. I got you, Jay Shine. We're on Discord. If no one's on my Discord,
I'm gonna get you in trouble, Christopher. So because I was out when I'm in London. But anyway, I was just saying that we gotta look at this for what it is. The game is tilted to have our women, incentivize our women to be reckless. You know what I mean? And they have all these safety nets not for just the children. I understand food stamps and all that. I have no problem with that. But to catch their behavior as if there's not other women on the planet who are responsible sexually. And like I said, if you point to the West, you can see that there's prostitutes out there that don't get pregnant. There's baddies out there messing with certain dudes, but they don't get pregnant until they have unprotected sex with a basketball player. You understand what I'm saying? They know how not to get pregnant. So this is a dumb conversation that we have time and time out. We need to disincentivize the behavior, and the only way I see us doing that is through law. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well said. Sorry, I was eating. Apologies. Great points made, Jason. Thank you again. I want to say that. I want to say, Chaos, it's been an excellent stream. The reason why I didn't come up early is because I was just listening.
That's fine.
And I was genuinely enjoying myself. It was really good discourse. Mr. Grandinson, I'm definitely gonna buy your book. This has been a very informative and entertaining stream. And like you said, I just feel as though if you get your passport, first step, get your passport. Try to figure out, okay, what in terms of personality and temperament and physicality, what kind of woman you like across the world, and try to learn their language. And then usually, if you are of a certain caliber of men, and of course have your money put together, everything is going to fall into place. I just feel as though, prime example, everyone's seen the recent pop the balloon, not show, but the last stream. As soon as the guy stepped out, they all popped the balloon, and the guy was literally he has his own company, and he's working with PBS, the television company, and he owned an Airbnb by the lake. But just off of the fact that how he was dressed is like they all popped his balloon. I just feel as though, especially particularly with the black community. The black community is the canary in the coal mine. It's kind of done. You got to find another place where you can just find a quality, decent woman. You only need one woman. And I feel as though brothers selling themselves short to try to find someone in the community to say, well, let me try to make it work it out. But it's like, no, like, or they'll wait until they're in their 40s or 50s and then have this regret, like, damn, I wish I had a family, or I wish I had a woman near me in my old age. Like, no, I feel as though if you can do what you can and try to get your ducks in a row and find a woman from another country. That I feel as that's the only solution. But thank you for having me on.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Azrael. Thank you, Jay Sean and Azrael. All right. Appreciate it, brothers. Thank you. All right. Dr. Garrison, any closing remarks for the viewers that will come back to this?
Yeah, there was so much we couldn't get into. So if you're really interested in more, just you can read the first chapter free on Amazon, the Kindle button. So go in there and you can read the whole first chapter to, get a better synopsis of each chapter and see if you're interested. And if you heard anything you liked tonight, that's a good way to learn a lot more. And I'm open to coming back if you want me to talk more in, let's say, a week or two when, people have read the book, or if you load this show up on your site and people have a lot of questions. I don't mind coming back and talking again.
Well, I will put up something, and those that will catch replay if they want, either or I will bring it back eventually. Give some people the time. Because the book just came out, so we will sit back and see how things are circulating in a month or two, or even sooner. We'll see. I appreciate you coming up, having the conversation. Just sit tight. I'm gonna talk to you once the stream done. All right, so sit back. All right. All right. Thank y'all for listening to today's stream. A lot was said, a lot of information. Like always, I would appreciate all y'all to go back to the replay of this, leave a comment, the things that you like or agree or disagree, and if you want, me bring back Garrison, you could express it in the comment section. Either or, I will eventually make my way to bring back on. But the book is out now. As you know, the title of the book, and I'll get to y'all again. Title is Pastor Bros, Modern Women, and the Battle of the Sexes, Evolutionary Psychology of the Pastor Bros, Phenomena, and the Gender War It Ignites by C. Paul Grandison. The links to follow me are the above. You can follow me on Twitter at Chaos27. You could also add me as a friend on Facebook, Eric Gray on Facebook. Join my Discord service. Become a member as well. And what else? Oh, follow me on Rumble. My Rumble handle is CRain23 at Rumble as well. Those links to follow me, they're in the description of this channel. Like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And like always, till next time, guys, let it get us. Rain.